So backing up then and just focusing there on the life of Jesus, right? So you have this man who walks the earth, who allegedly performs miracles, allegedly seems to have some sort of a claim to a really transcendent level of knowing, and which comes forward in the miracles and elsewhere.
Where he can read minds even.
Sure.
Hearts.
And there's this gift of prophecy to predict future events. And then, of course, there's these alleged fulfillments of so many other prophecies that came in the centuries past. So he's kind of this pre-announced prophet that comes to live among all the other prophets that allegedly have had this kind of supernatural gift, right? Because if you a prophet in the classification we're talking here, it's somebody, they'll predict some future event and the thing will come to pass centuries or even longer after they lived. There's something you wouldn't say that they're guilty of pulling some cheap magician's trick,
right?
Because they're not even around anymore, and then all of a sudden
they're not doing it for profit or anything,
right?
Like that,
there's no personal gain there, so it's just interesting. It's something to truly ponder and say, is this something that happens throughout time and space, or is this all bunk and something I can just reject? And it needs to be part of the conversation,
absolutely,
when determining, what is all that is or that can be. And of course, when pondering the infinite, it encompasses all. So, shifting from kind of the first portion of our conversation was what we would call natural apologetics, right? Just purely focusing on philosophy and coming to a philosophical conclusion that there is a God and he can't be multiple gods, right?
Correct.
Now we're in Christian apologetics, and what we come to discover as we focus on the life of this man that lived some 2,000 years ago is that you still utilize some of the science of philosophy, but you also lean heavily on history here. So you have to utilize the academic discipline of history to pore over these alleged occurrences, right? These miracles, these prophecies. Because if they can be shown to be true, well, miracles are an indication of omnipotence,
sure,
right?
This or at least
power,
right?
Or at least, I'm sorry.
Well, I would say at least of the fact that you have some power that's
sure
more than the average man.
Absolutely. And if you have this gift of prophecy, there's some sort of up to and including omniscience going on there, right? This knowledge. And as I say the word omniscience, I'm reminded, as we say, I just said you have to utilize the science of philosophy. There is a lot of modernists that would cringe just at hearing that term. I've debated many. And, they don't think of philosophy as a science anymore, which is unfortunate. Because, the word science comes from the Latin scientia, which simply means knowledge. And when you come to the working definition of that, you realize that the manner in which philosophy works is it's an intellectual pursuit, and the intellect is immaterial. Therefore, it's a different kind of science than the empirical sciences that utilize the scientific method, which is, of course, so popular and taught in schools today still. So, and that's the trap that a lot of modernists fall into. They think that any and every science has to be relegated to something empirical, and that's a logical fallacy. So, anyways, all that being an aside, you have to utilize the science of philosophy and the discipline of history to pore over this man's life. And if you do that honestly, what you come to realize is there is something truly remarkable taking place there. because there are all these prophecies that went from centuries prior. Like I think of Micah, a pretty minor prophet who didn't have much that survived in writing, but he hones in specifically on exactly where the Messiah, the Mashiach, is going to be born in Bethlehem some centuries before. And I mean, like specificity, serious
and Isaiah,
specificity
of how he's going to be born, of a virgin.
Right. And these are centuries prior. And here's the other thing, too. I was astonished when I personally discovered this in my faith journey. There was a ton of that prophesying taking place in other religions, too.
Oh, yeah.
In the pagan world. You had in China, and many centuries before Christ's life, they talked about the great saint of the West. Of course, Israel being west of them geologically.
Interesting.
You had it in, I want to say France, pagan France. You had it and it was expressed in
Maybe
the
we could
plays.
put some of those sources inside the
Sure.
link. Yeah.
Sure, a lot of it comes from the first chapter of The Life of Christ by Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen.
Okay.
He really,
So a good secondary source.
absolutely, he really hits on this topic as an opening exposition on, Jesus as the Christ, as the Messiah.